Daniel, a resourceful astronaut, crash lands on a mysterious and uncharted planet. As he navigates a world of awe-inspiring beauty and unseen perils, Daniel encounters an alien race on the brink of extinction. Their survival hinges on a controversial and intimate energy source. Will he compromise his morals to save an unknown civilization? The ultimate ethical dilemma awaits. If you want to dive into real stories of parallel realities every day, in enigmatic, technological worlds that are completely different from our planet, subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Well, let's go. The infinite void of space surrounded Daniel's spacecraft, the vast expanse punctuated only by distant stars shimmering like distant lighthouses. Daniel Harris, a seasoned astronaut from Earth, had set out on this mission with a mix of excitement and apprehension. His chiseled features reflected the calm determination that had seen him through countless missions. Dark hair framed his introspective, steel-blue eyes as he scrutinized his readings. Suddenly, every alarm in his cockpit erupted into chaotic symphony. His instruments recorded a severe system failure. Before he could react, the spacecraft spiraled out of control, plummeting towards an uncharted planet. Time blurred in the searing heat and relentless spinning, and consciousness slipped through his fingers like grains of sand. His last thought was a fleeting image of Earth, his home, now a million miles away. The crash was monumental, a cacophony of everlasting impact. When the smoke cleared, Daniel found himself lying amidst the wreckage of his damaged spacecraft. Disorientation clouded his mind, but survival instincts kicked in hard. Slowly, he stood up, assessing his surroundings with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The alien landscape that stretched before him was otherworldly, a juxtaposition of vibrant beauty and stark isolation. Strange formations jutted out from the ground, colored in hues he had never seen back on Earth. The flora seemed to pulse with an inner luminescence, casting an ethereal glow that bathed the entire region in a surreal light. He wondered if he was the first human to set eyes on such wonders. As he moved cautiously through this alien terrain, Daniel's gaze locked onto a figure emerging from the misty horizon. The being was strikingly humanoid yet adorned with features that were unmistakably extraterrestrial. Azure-skinned and luminescent, the alien possessed an aura of authority and mystique. It wore an intricately woven garment that echoed the bioluminescence of the local flora. This was Init, the enigmatic leader of the Auras, a race that Daniel would soon learn held the keys to unfathomable mysteries. Init's eyes, a radiant amethyst, conveyed both wisdom and an ancient sorrow. Daniel could sense the being's commanding presence even before a word was exchanged. "Who are you?" Daniel's voice was hoarse, strained from the crash. Init understood him with a telepathic grace, bypassing the need for vocal cords. The language of thoughts and feelings flowed effortlessly between them. "You may call me Init," the figure replied, mirroring Daniel's internal conflict back at him. "You have crashed on Daedalus, our world." With the "over" in its expression grew somber. "It seems your arrival is not just an accident, but perhaps fate itself." Stranded and faced with the reality that immediate repair was impossible, Daniel's heart sank. His attempts to establish communication with Earth were met only with static. Fear began to coil around his gut, but he forced himself to keep moving, his training compelling him to analyze, to adapt. Night fell swiftly on Daedalus, bringing with it an otherworldly transformation. The bioluminescent flora intensified in brightness, casting dancing shadows across the landscape. The plants seemed almost to communicate with each other through pulses of light, creating a symphony of colors that both mesmerized and isolated him further. Daniel was alone, but far from unobserved. Every breath he took seemed laden with the weight of millions of unseen eyes. Daniel found shelter in a small cavern. The walls were inscribed with unfamiliar symbols, telling tales of Daedalus's ancient history, serpentine glyphs that narrated epics of joy and suffering, glory and ruin. An unease settled over Daniel as he imagined the unknown eyes watching him from the shadows. As the hours dragged on, exhaustion took its toll. Daniel's sleep was restless, disturbed by dreams of floating through the void, of voices calling out his name from across the stars. Morning came with the stark reality of his situation. Determined, he made his way toward the epicenter of the Aura's civilization, guided by Init's omnipresent influence. What lay ahead was a sprawling city that floated above the ground, tethered to immense crystals pulsating with energies that seemed drawn from the planet itself. As he crossed into this marvel of engineering and mysticism, he couldn't help but feel an intrinsic awe for the Aura's achievements. Their architecture was an elegant blend of the organic and the synthetic. Structures seemed to grow from the earth like colossal trees, their surfaces adorned with intricate patterns that glowed with a life of their own. Init awaited him at the heart of this wondrous city, within a grand hall built from semi-transparent materials that refracted light in dazzling arrays. The walls were adorned with murals depicting cosmic journeys and celestial beings, hinting at the Aura's deep connection with the universe. But it was something else that caught Daniel's eye, a massive, crystalline structure in the center of the hall, its surface pulsing weakly as if alive yet ailing. "Our energies are fading," Init's voice resonated within Daniel's mind. It was both a statement and a plea. The core of our civilization is dying. Without it, Daedalus will succumb to chaos. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The revelation sent a shiver down his spine, his curiosity mixed with trepidation. He felt a great burden shifting onto his shoulders, an unspoken implication that he was somehow a critical part of their salvation. "We have long tapped into energies that transcend the physical," Init continued, as cryptic symbols flashed within Daniel's mind, unraveling the Aura's deeper secrets. "Our survival hinges on harnessing an unconventional and often taboo source of energy, sexual energy." The words left Daniel reeling. His mind raced, grappling with the ethical conception of such an exploit. His rational human side clashed with the dire needs laid bare before him. It was an unwelcome epiphany, the realization that his body's energy signature could potentially revitalize the fading core. Yet, the process would come at an immense personal risk. With each hour that passed, Daniel was led deeper into the complexities of the Aura's world. The city was supported by an advanced network of energy channels that drew sustenance from the central crystal. However, its light dimmed perilously, reflecting the existential plight of its people. Init's eyes seemed to pierce through Daniel's soul as they walked along the corridors, silently imploring him to understand the gravity of the situation. As night fell again, Daniel found himself staring out over the alien cityscape, his mind awash with conflicting thoughts. A soft glow from the bioluminescent flora painted everything in shades of green and blue, tranquility shrouding a looming desperation. The enormity of the dilemma bore down on him. Risk himself to save this world, or continue searching for a way to return to his own. The second moon hung ominously in the violet-hued sky, casting an ethereal glow over the sprawling alien city. Daniel's gaze wandered from the bioluminescent shrubbery swaying gently in the alien breeze to the crystalline structures that dotted the landscape, like shards of an immense geode. The moments of tranquility were deceptive. Beneath the captivating serenity lay deepening tensions that he could no longer ignore. Standing in front of one such enormous crystalline edifice, Daniel couldn't shake off the palpable sense of dread. This feeling only magnified with each word uttered by Init, the powerful aura of her presence undiminished despite her compassionate demeanor. Azure-skinned and with eyes that seemed to echo the boundless depths of the cosmos, Init had become more than just his captor. She was now an uneasy ally. "Daniel, we don't have much time. Our survival depends on a source of energy that is intricate," Init began, her voice tinged with urgency yet delicately restrained. Sexual energy, she continued, almost whispering the words as if invoking them too loudly might invite an unwanted consequence. Her declaration lingered in the air like an unspeakable truth finally unveiled. His mind raced, grappling with this alien notion. Could it be true? He recalled Earth's grappling with taboo and morality, ancient cultures that revered and others that condemned such practices in equal measure. Was history repeating itself but on a cosmic scale? Survival mechanisms on an alien planet were far beyond his comprehension, yet this was intimate, unsettling, and yet curiously holds an allure, an irresistible pull masked as a symptom of his growing affection toward Init. Still, a moral outrage simmered beneath his tranquility. Could he break humanity's last frontier of ethical boundaries for these mysterious beings? Sensing his internal struggle, Init guided him through an expansive hallway within one of the crystalline structures. The walls pulsated with energy, a soft hum filling the silence as if the building itself was alive. At the grand hall's center stood the heart of their civilization, a massive, transparent crystal, emanating a muted glow. Daniel could see it. The crystal's vitality was waning. Small fractures spider-webbed its once immaculate surface, each crack pulsating with a desperate throbbing light. This crystal is the essence of our life force, Init explained, her voice filled with sorrow yet retaining an undercurrent of determination. It is what connects us, what sustains us. But it is failing. Examining the crystal closer, Daniel gasped. Vivid streams of what appeared to be liquid light ebbed within it, each stream slower than the last as if struggling against an invisible tide. His unique energy signature could rejuvenate this majestic entity, she said, a sentiment that hung heavily on his psyche, layering complications upon his burgeoning feelings for Init and his desperate desire to return home. The dichotomy was agonizing. On one hand, there was the conceptual beauty of becoming part of something grander, something extraordinary. On the other, the devastating reality of such a sacrifice. What if he could bridge these worlds? He wrestled with myriad questions. Was this solely about survival for the auras, or did it envelop grander, unfathomable cosmic truths? As the sun dipped below the horizon, cloaking the city in a cascade of twilight hues, Init led him to a secluded chamber within their complex. The crystalline walls shifted colors in response to his presence, creating a symphony of luminescent art that momentarily distracted him with its surreal beauty. The room was clearly meant for comfort, alien flora entwined in symmetrical patterns around polished stone furniture that seemed to invite contemplation. In a lower resonant tone, Init divulged more about their civilization's deep connection to the crystal and how sexual energy, while seen through a narrow lens, actually represented a vast spectrum of life force energy that only highly compatible beings could generate. Her explanation added yet another layer of intricacy to this already convoluted scenario. I sensed your compatibility with our crystal the moment you arrived, she confessed. This isn't merely about energy. It's about the potential to create harmony, to foster a connection so profound that it breathes life anew into our world. Her words echoed through the chamber, resonating with Daniel in ways that confounded his earthly logic. The stakes were immensely high, and he began to feel the weight of it, a solitary human bearing the burden of an entire alien race. Could he truly be the missing link in this complex cosmic puzzle? As he grappled with her revelations, Daniel realized how deeply intertwined his fate had become with that of the auras. The anguish of possibly never seeing Earth again only compounded his turmoil. Driven by instinct, he approached the crystal, reaching out as if to touch the future itself. The fractal light pulsating within seemed almost to respond, flickering faster at his proximity. Summoning bravery he hadn't realized existed within him, Daniel turned to face Init. His decision wasn't definitive yet, but for the first time, he spoke with a modicum of resolve. If what you say is true, what exactly would it mean for me? What kind of risk are we talking about? Init's eyes, usually so hard to read, softened as a rare vulnerability surfaced. It may cost you everything, Daniel. Your essence, your autonomy. What makes you uniquely human? This bond we require transcends the physical plane and enters the soul itself. Emotion churned within him. A brew of apprehension, curiosity, and something beginning to emerge as hope. In this distant world, fraught with peril and promise alike, he stood on the precipice of an irreversible choice. Yet, the ethical dilemmas gnawed at him ceaselessly. Could he forego his humanity for the survival of another race? What did it symbolize if he did, and what if he refused? That night, as Daniel lay amidst the soft luminescence of the alien flora, his dreams were a tapestry of interwoven realities. Myriad possibilities unfurled, each highlighting the myriad faces of sacrifice, belonging, and identity. The distant hum of the city provided a haunting lullaby, as the planet's indigenous life all seemed to conspire to paint the urgency of his decision upon the canvas of his slumber. Morning broke without clear resolution. But something shifted within him. A new day meant another opportunity to uncover truths that eluded him thus far. Daniel wandered the city at dawn's first light, the air sharp but filled with the delicate fragrance of alien blossoms. Each step he took across the smooth, crystal pathways brought him closer to a destiny that seemed both written in the stars and as fluid as the shifting bioluminescence surrounding him. Was he becoming part of this world, or was it merely adapting to him? A delicate balance that continuously oscillated with each breath he took. As Daniel walked, the other auras observed, their luminous forms casting long, enigmatic shadows. They were invested in his decision. Those shadows seemed to whisper. The ether of trails was dotted with cerulean flares, faint imprints left by the bioluminescent flora that had become all too familiar to Daniel. Despite the abundance of light, shadows of doubt and anxiety cloaked his mind. The recent revelations by Init, the azure-skinned leader of the auras, had left a complexity in his emotions that was both unsettling and undeniable. The desperate appeal to save their civilization through harnessing his unique energy signature lingered heavily, gnawing at the very core of his being. But every time they tried to transfer energy, the process was fraught with failure, amplifying the gravity of the situation. Init, unwavering in her determination, only served to sharpen Daniel's own internal struggle. The alien city around them transformed with the setting sun, a serene luminescence giving way to early signs of despair. Electrical storms now pierced the sky with increasing regularity, their luminous tendrils a stark contrast to the previously tranquil nights. Ground tremors, subtle at first, became worrying shakes that hinted at tectonic unease. To Daniel, it felt as though the planet itself responded to the ticking countdown of the crystal's degradation, mirroring his turmoil. This celestial symbiotic relationship between him and this world confined him to a predicament he couldn't easily escape. The energy transference continued to be an agonizing ordeal. Much like surgical procedures, the processes were meticulous, systematically dissecting layers of energy before attempting to align them with the crystal. Despite the advanced technology of the auras, setbacks grew common. The crystal would not stabilize. Each futile endeavor fostered a growing kinship between Daniel and Init. She revealed deeper layers of their lore and destiny, shedding light on traditions, rituals, and the essence of their existence, all aligned with the dying heartbeat of the crystal. Yet, as enigmatic and mesmerizing as their world was, Daniel found no solace in these revelations. His thoughts were wrenched between two worlds, two fates, and two burgeoning relationships. Init's demeanor, a complex fabric of strength and vulnerability, became a reflection of their plight. Her azure skin shimmered with a soft glow, a stark contrast to the increasing signs of stress etched into her typically serene countenance. On certain evenings, beneath the canopy of alien forestry, the burden of what lay ahead was palpable. Her long, flowing robes, seemingly woven from threads of light, would ripple in a disconcerting harmony with the shifting electromagnetic field that surrounded them. It was on one such evening, amidst the dim flicker of hopes almost lost, that Init unveiled the gravity of their shrinking window. "The degradation of our crystal has accelerated," she confided, her voice catching, an unarticulated urgency underlining her words. "We have precious little time left, Daniel. Nature itself seems to be aware. The planet's anger grows." As if in response, another tremor shook the ground beneath their feet. Daniel clenched his fists, feet firmly planted as he steadied himself against the quake. The landscape had begun to morph, as agitated as the internal struggle within him. Gnarled roots of alien trees stretched and grasped, as if Gaia herself sought to anchor itself against its unyielding fate. The skies vented their frustration in torrential downpours, deviating from their serene origins. It seemed everything converged, leading him to a critical precipice. The options were dwindling faster than the light cascading from the city itself. Once, during a perilous electrical storm, Init and Daniel sought refuge within an ancient temple. It was an edifice that preserved the annals of the Aura's ancient wisdom. Shielded from the chaotic elemental forces outside, they huddled beside a bioluminescent monolith that told the tales of sacrifice and survival. Here, the true depth of their plight seeped into Daniel's consciousness. Stories of ancestors who had weathered cosmic turbulence, forging peace and sustenance from sheer metal, resonated deeply. He saw how Init embodied their enduring will. Yet, the crystal's demise portended the collapse of all they'd preserved. "Why was it me?" he thought aloud, perplexity suffused in his voice. The question hung in the dense air, refused an easy answer. Init had pondered this many times, too, offering, "Perhaps because our destinies were entwined long before your spacecraft's arrival, in ways we cannot yet comprehend." Daniel couldn't shake the feeling of being a cog in a labyrinthine machine of fate. The vastness of his previous life, with its mundane, terrestrial worries, had never prepared him for such existential dilemmas. Debating between self-preservation and altruistic sacrifice, he grappled with the gnawing sense of being ensnared in a cosmic tug-of-war. The planet's growing turbulence didn't make the choice easier. If anything, it amplified the urgency exponentially. The electric tension veiling the city reached a crescendo, sending ripples through the bioluminescent flora. It mirrored Daniel's spiraling thoughts. It became evident that his choices weren't solely responsible for his destiny. The aspect of survival had gradually assumed an interwoven identity entwined with the survival of another race. This revelation made the ethical dilemma more complex. If he diverged paths, choosing not to engage further with the crystal's needs, the fatalities would be unimaginable. But aligning himself with a foreign civilization's mystical fabric risked his very essence. The scenario embodied a conflict transcending epochs, a battle waged since time immemorial, individual versus collective fate. Strikingly evident in Init's eyes was an unspoken plea that transcended their biologically different origins. While she bore the essence of a resilient leader, harmony emanated from the vulnerability she seldom displayed. The subtleties of their expressions became attuned frequencies in a cosmic symphony filled with uncertain notes. As another evening drew upon them, the city aglow with its own somber luminance, Daniel stood before the crystal. The immense structure pulsed erratically, its vitality waning, as if echoing the heartbeat of a dying being. Gritting his teeth, he plunged once more into the arduous energy transfer ritual. Streams of radiant energy formed a dance of cascading light, swirling around the crystal. His vision blurred, his essence tangibly merging with the alien artifact. But once more, the process faltered. The crystal vibrated violently and then dimmed, rejecting the transference. With every failed attempt, a sliver of hope peeled away, revealing a stark urgency beneath. Even the bioluminescent city seemed to dim in recognition. Beckoning him from afar, Init embraced a collected aura, hiding the disillusionment that she certainly held within. Every strand of their technological advancements, every piece of their evolved civilization seemed inadequate before the core reality. They needed something or someone beyond their blueprint. Underneath the roiling skies, Daniel grasped the magnitude of the pending decision. Amidst elemental disruptions, amidst potential sacrifices, the narrative turned inward. The landscapes, merely reflections of an unavoidable climax. He needed to reassess everything. The alien city, once glowing with ethereal beauty, now trembles with an urgency that Daniel can't ignore. The sky above warps with the gravitational distortions of the dying crystal, casting a pall of shadow and light onto the sprawling metropolis below. Structures made of iridescent materials sway precariously, hinting at the seismic disturbances that have become disturbingly frequent. The very ground underfoot seems unstable, as though warning of an impending collapse. Daniel stands at the outskirts of the city, his gaze fixed on the shimmering beacon at its heart, the massive crystal that is the lifeline of the auras. This pulsating monolith, once vibrant and robust, now flickers like a dying flame, each throb weakened from its former glory. The city's inhabitants, the auras, move with a palpable sense of desperation. For them, the crystal isn't just a power source, it's the essence of their civilization's longevity and vitality. Daniel's internal conflict is almost as tumultuous as the cataclysmic environment around him. He has grown fond of Init, their shared experiences breeding a profound, albeit conflicting, sense of connection. Init, the azure-skinned leader with eyes that seem to hold galaxies, stands by his side, her expression a mixture of determination and silent plea. He can see the weight of her people's survival etched into every tension line around her glowing eyes. With a deep breath, Daniel makes his irreversible decision. The antimatter core from his crashed spacecraft remains intact and might just be the key to revitalizing the dying crystal. His background in astrophysics offers him a grim understanding of the potential consequences. Antimatter is not an energy source to be trifled with. The risks are astronomical, but the potential solution is too critical to dismiss. If it fails, it could mean the annihilation of everything within a 100-mile radius, possibly more. Initiating the plan requires meticulous calculation. Daniel returns to the wreck of his ship, navigating through twisted metal and damaged tech until he reaches the potent antimatter core. Sweat drips down his face as he begins the intricate process of decoupling it from the ship's ruined systems, his hands trembling with the weight of the decision. This is no ordinary task. One wrong move could mean an instant, fiery death. The transport of the antimatter core to the crystal's chamber is fraught with danger. The auras, now fully aware of the stakes, offer their assistance. A contingent of them, including Init, form a protective escort as they traverse the city's labyrinthine pathways, each step resonating with the hum of the unstable core. Daniel can feel the tension in the air as though the molecules themselves are saturated with anxiety. Upon reaching the crystal's chamber, they stand before a structure almost cathedral-like in its grandeur. Crystal shards jut out asymmetrically, encasing the central monolith in an awe-inspiring, jagged embrace. The dying light emanating from the crystal reflects off the shards, creating a stunning yet ominous kaleidoscope of colors. Daniel sets the antimatter core at the base of the monolith, connecting it through a series of hastily assembled conduits designed to channel the titanic energy release. The culminating moment arrives. Daniel steps back, his breath bated, as Init activates a complex series of controls. A hush falls over the chamber, the silence almost deafening, save for the low hum of the power lines. Then, in an instant that seems to stretch into eternity, the antimatter core releases its energy. What follows is a spectacular display that defies the limits of human imagination. Light explodes outward in radiant waves, engulfing the chamber and spilling into the city beyond. Vibrant hues of blue, gold, and violet intertwine in a chaotic tango, illuminating the night as bright as day. The air crackles with raw power, and for a moment, Daniel feels an overwhelming sense of achievement. But just as hope seems to crest, the crystal shudders violently. Fissures begin to snake through its structure, each crack releasing bursts of volatile energy. Daniel struggles to understand what went wrong. His calculations had been perfect, had they not? Init's face reflects the same moment of betrayal by science and fate, her luminous features twisted in a mixture of anguish and resolve. Without warning, the entire matrix shatters in a cataclysmic burst. The force of the explosion sends Daniel flying backward, his consciousness slipping away as the world disintegrates around him. He feels himself being enveloped by an all-consuming void, the suffocating darkness punctuated only by the fading aftershocks of the cosmic blast. When he opens his eyes again, Daniel finds himself in a starkly different environment. The ornate crystal chamber, with its resplendent beauty and alien architecture, has given way to a cold, sterile laboratory. The familiarity of shining white walls, advanced machinery, and holographic displays is both comforting and disconcerting. Confusion grips him as he tries to reconcile the abrupt shift in surroundings. A series of figures enter the laboratory. They are clearly not human, although their distinguishing features are subtler than the auras. They possess elongated limbs and slightly luminescent eyes that emit a soft, calming light. Their general demeanor exudes an aura of calm authority and measured curiosity. One of these beings steps forward, introducing itself as a representative of an advanced alien race overseeing the simulation. The realization hits Daniel like a punch to the gut. Everything he had experienced, the crash, the auras, Init, and the dying crystal, had been a sophisticated construct designed to test human resilience, empathy, and the capacity for self-sacrifice. The revelation leaves Daniel speechless. The burden of his experiences weighs heavily upon him, though the reality of their simulation-generated nature doesn't lessen their significance. The emotional scars, the ethical dilemmas, and the relationships he forged feel no less real. His mind races as he contemplates the implications of this elaborate test. The lead alien explains that their race has long grappled with the ethical boundaries of such simulations, their quest for understanding pushing them to explore the depths of human and alien psyche alike. They seek not just to observe resilience, but to understand the nuanced tapestry of emotions and ethical decisions that drive species to acts of profound sacrifice. As Daniel processes the whirlwind of revelations, Init appears, her form slightly distorted as if viewed through a holographic lens. She is real, but her physical presence here is as an avatar, a bridge between two realities. The warmth of her luminous eyes softens the harshness of the sterile lab environment. Together, they stand at a crossroad of monumental decision. In this artificially constructed moment of clarity, Init offers Daniel a choice: return to Earth, to the familiarity of his former life, or embrace the unknown and join her across the cosmos. Her proposition echoes with the promise of boundless adventure but also with the gravitas of enormous responsibility. Just as Daniel begins to formulate his response, grappling with the enormity of his choices, the laboratory walls seem to ripple. The sterile, futuristic laboratory around Daniel buzzed with a low hum. He blinked, disoriented, trying to piece together what had transpired. The elaborate simulation, the desperate plight of the auras, the energy transfer, all of it had felt so real. Now, standing in the cold, clinical environment, it seemed both distant and vividly present. Init stood before him, her azure skin shimmering under the sterile lights, her gaze filled with a multitude of emotions, hope, curiosity, and an underlying sadness. Daniel's thoughts raced, trying to make sense of the revelation. The advanced alien race had orchestrated an elaborate test to gauge the depth of human resilience and empathy. It was overwhelming, a cascade of revelations washing over him. Init's voice broke the silence, filled with a blend of warmth and urgency. She told him that despite the simulated nature of the ordeal, the emotional and psychological impact was genuine. The connections forged within the elaborate confines of the simulation were authentic and deeply affecting. She offered him a choice: return to Earth, to the familiar confines of the life he once led, or join her in an odyssey across the cosmos, exploring the uncharted wonders of the universe. Daniel could feel the weight of the decision bearing down on him. The lab's sterile environment contrasted starkly with the vivid, though simulated, landscape of the Aura's world. The memories of the luminous flora, the pulsating energy crystal, and the intense bond he had formed within it filled his mind. The choice was not just about destination but essence, a decision about who he was and who he wanted to become. Memories flooded back, the serene moments of connection with Init, the overwhelming sense of belonging despite the alien environment, and the transformative realization that home was not a place but a feeling, a connection. His heart pounded as he envisioned returning to Earth, the familiar yet increasingly insignificant existence he had left behind. The thought of mundane routines and superficial concerns felt almost unbearable compared to the profound experiences he had been through. Daniel's resolve firmed. His eyes met Init's, and in that moment of mutual understanding, he knew his answer. With a wave of warmth and excitement, he chose the path of the unknown. The universe was vast, brimming with mysteries, and he was not ready to give up the sense of wonder, the depth of connection he had found. Together, they would face whatever lay beyond the horizon. Init nodded, her eyes reflecting a profound respect and contentment. Hand in hand, they moved toward the exit, leaving behind the known corridors of Earth-bound reality. The lab's doors slid open to reveal a view filled with the cosmos' endless expanse. Stars stretched out in every direction, a canvas painted with endless possibilities. Daniel's heart raced not with fear, but with a sense of exhilarating anticipation. The epic journey ahead promised exploration, discovery, and an intimate connection that transcended the boundaries of species and space. It was a step into a future undefined by the mundane constraints of his past life, a future where the only limits were those of imagination and courage. As they stepped into the unknown, the narrative of Daniel and Init's journey was far from concluded. Instead, it was just the beginning, a testament to the eternal quest for connection, understanding, and purpose. The universe held countless secrets, and together, they were ready to uncover them one by one, driven by the enigmatic allure of the stars and the profound bond that had brought them together. The message was clear. The essence of home and sacrifice had evolved. It wasn't about a single place or a solitary existence, but about the relationships formed and the adventures shared. With Init by his side, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose, a clarity that transcended anything he had known before. The stars before them weren't just points of light, they were promises of endless discovery, boundless love, and the uncharted territories of both space and the human, and alien, experience. They were ready, not just to survive, but to thrive, to evolve, and to find new meanings in the vast expanse that stretched out before them. As they ventured into the cosmos, the promise of eternal discovery propelled them forward, a beacon of hope and a testament to the boundless potential of connection and adventure. The saga of Daniel and Init was only beginning, an epic tale written among the stars. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.